There comes a moment in almost every life when things stop making sense. Not the small frustrations, like your phone battery dying at the worst possible moment, or your coffee machine choosing Monday morning to retire from service. Those are annoying, yes, but manageable. I'm talking about something deeper. The moments when life hits harder than expected. When something important is taken from you. When plans collapse. When the future suddenly looks nothing like the one you imagined. Moments when a quiet thought slips into a person's mind. What's the point of continuing? Many people face that question at some point in their lives. But long before our modern world, with all its comforts, technology, and distractions, 3 men stood in that same darkness. 3 men who experienced suffering in very different ways. A slave who became a philosopher, a man who lost everything he loved, and a king who knew both great triumph and deep personal struggle. Their names were Epictetus, Job, and David, and their lives remind us of something powerful. Hardship does not have to be the end of a person's story. The reality of suffering. There's a comforting belief many people hold when they're young. The idea that if you work hard, do the right thing, and make good decisions, life will go smoothly. Eventually, experience teaches us otherwise. Life includes loss. It includes disappointment. It includes moments when things simply feel unfair. And during those moments, people often feel completely alone. But history tells us something different. Suffering is not unique to our generation. It is part of the human story, and the lives of these 3 men show us different ways people have faced it. Epictetus, when life is unfair. Epictetus was born a slave in the Roman Empire. From the beginning, his life was controlled by others. He had no freedom, no power, no ability to change his circumstances. One story even suggests his master twisted his leg so severely that it left him permanently injured. Now imagine living under those conditions. Many people today become frustrated when the internet runs slowly. Epictetus lived a life where his entire existence was controlled by someone else. Yet, instead of becoming bitter, he developed a philosophy that still shapes the world today. Epictetus taught that life can be divided into 2 categories: things you can control and things you cannot. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control other people's actions. You cannot control every event that happens to you, but you can control your response, your choices, your character, your attitude. In other words, Epictetus believed that even a person in chains could still possess freedom of the mind. And that idea raises an interesting question. Have you ever faced a situation where everything felt unfair, yet you still had to decide how you would respond? If that's something you've experienced, share your thoughts in the comments. Someone reading might realize they're not alone in that struggle. But sometimes suffering goes further than unfair circumstances. Sometimes everything is taken. Job, when everything is lost. The story of Job is one of the most powerful reflections on suffering ever written. Job was known as a faithful and prosperous man. He had wealth, a large family, a stable life. By every measure, things seemed secure. And then everything changed. Within a short period of time, Job lost his livestock, his servants, his children, and eventually his health. Imagine the silence that follows such loss, the empty rooms, the unanswered questions, the overwhelming weight of grief. Many people in that position might turn away from faith entirely. But Job did something remarkable. In the middle of his suffering, he said, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job didn't pretend that his pain wasn't real. He mourned. He questioned. He struggled deeply. But he did not abandon his trust in God, even when he didn't understand what was happening. And that's an important part of the story, because one of the hardest things about suffering is not knowing why it happens. Job teaches something profound. Faith is not the absence of questions. It is the decision to trust God even when the answers are unclear. If you've ever gone through a season where life seemed to fall apart, you're not alone. And if you found strength through faith during that time, feel free to share that experience below. It may encourage someone else who's walking through a similar valley. But suffering doesn't always come from external events. Sometimes the battle is internal. David, when the struggle is within King David, is often remembered for his greatest victory, defeating the giant Goliath. But David's life was far more complicated than that single moment. He experienced betrayal. He faced rebellion. He made serious mistakes that weighed heavily on his heart. Yet one of the most remarkable things about David is how honest he was with God. If you read the Psalms he wrote, you see a man pouring out his soul. He speaks about fear, about loneliness, about enemies surrounding him. At times he even asks God questions that sound painfully human. And yet, again and again, David returns to trust. One of his most famous lines says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." David's strength didn't come from pretending life was easy. It came from maintaining a relationship with God through every season, both the victories and the struggles. That honesty is one reason David's words still resonate thousands of years later, because they remind us that even strong people experience moments of doubt. But those moments do not have to define the rest of the story. 3 lives, 1 truth. Epictetus, Job, David. 3 men from different cultures and circumstances, a slave, a grieving father, a king. Yet each of them faced suffering that could have easily broken their spirit. Epictetus taught the importance of mastering one's response to hardship. Job demonstrated unwavering faith even when life collapsed around him. David showed that a person can struggle deeply and still remain connected to God. Their stories reveal a powerful truth. Suffering may be part of life, but it does not have to be the end of hope. A thought for today. Every person watching this video is walking through their own story. Some seasons are peaceful, others are heavy, and sometimes people find themselves standing in the middle of a storm they never expected. If you're in one of those seasons right now, remember this. History is full of people who stood exactly where you stand, feeling uncertain, feeling overwhelmed, feeling exhausted. But they continued, not perfectly, not without struggle, but they continued. Sometimes the most courageous decision a person can make is simply refusing to give up. Final reflection. Life will eventually test every person. That reality has not changed across centuries, but neither has another truth. Human beings possess a remarkable ability to endure. Epictetus endured injustice. Job endured devastating loss. David endured both external battles and internal ones. And through all of it, they remind us of something important. Hardship does not erase purpose. Sometimes it reveals it. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing and becoming part of this community as we continue exploring wisdom, philosophy, and faith that help us navigate life's challenges. And before you go, I'd like to hear from you. Which story spoke to you the most? Was it the resilience of Epictetus, the faith of Job, or the honesty of David? Share your thoughts in the comments. Someone reading might find encouragement in your perspective, because even in the darkest seasons of life, One decision can still change everything. The decision to stand up again and keep going.